Man, night 2 of WrestleMania, guys. I personally thought this night was way better than the first one, I started thinking out it was pretty good, but it actually got better and better as the night went on. And I know a lot of people probably like night 1 more, because night 1 was like the nerd, the smark and anti-smark WrestleMania, Night 2 was like the WrestleMania for like the actual fans of wrestling. And that's the way that I interpret it. But without any further ado, what up, motherfuckers? It's your boy, the hater, pin this piece. And we're going to get to the review right away, just real quick. I forgot their name because for some reason YouTube removed their comment. I was trying to find it. But some guy yesterday, in my other video, he basically said he was going to unsubscribe because he didn't like my review. And I got news for you, pal. Good. Beat it. Bounce. I don't want to see anyone like that around, I don't like people that judge based on opinions, you know what I mean? Like, we're allowed to dislike different things. We're just talking about wrestling. We're having fun here, motherfuckers. So, if you're someone that gets easily offended to the point where you're like, I'm going to unsubscribe because I didn't like what you said, beat it. I don't care. Good. And when I say I don't care, it's actually the opposite. I care. I want you gone. I don't want to associate myself with any people like that. So, with that being said, let's get to night 2. I mean, personally, like I said, I thought this was way better than the first night. For 2 reasons, right? There were many reasons, but 2 primary reasons. So first, I was telling my girlfriend last night how like this was like one of the worst WrestleManias I've ever seen, and the reason was because nothing mattered, right? There's two things that a WrestleMania has to do. It has to either tie up stories, loose ends, or programs, or it has to start them. Because sometimes that happens too. Sometimes storylines start at WrestleMania, and that's acceptable. Now, with that being said, the second thing that needs to happen is that WrestleMania needs, but like, this is the most important thing. It needs to get me to watch Raw the next day. That's the purpose. That's how you grow an audience. Same thing. Raw needs to make sure that you are willing to go and watch Raw the next week. SmackDown, when it ends, it needs to make sure that you have a reason to tune in to the next episode of SmackDown, right? And in my opinion, yesterday's WrestleMania did not do that at all. It didn't do any of that. It was just like, I have no reason to tune in, I mean, why? Why would I tune in? You know what I mean? Based on what I saw last night, why would I even consider, like, watching Raw based on that? Like, right, to see the Usos on SmackDown? To see Drew McIntyre or Happy Corbin? I mean, come on. The Miz? Like, why? Like, nothing happened. There was no storylines, I don't care about Bianca Belair and Becky Lynch. I guess some people want to see Cody Rhodes, but that's not a big enough of a draw, Because he's not that big of a deal, let's be honest. So, what was the point? Like, we know Stone Cold's not going to be on Raw, or if he is, he's not going to have a match. He's not going to resume his full-term career. However, night 2, I thought was really strong. It started off with the obligatory opener, which was just like a multi-man match. The right team won. RK Bro beat the 2 Jabron teams. And, as a bonus in the end, Gable Steveson, who, by the way, does not look like at all like what he is. This guy's like arguably the best wrestler of all time. Like he's like one of the best Olympic wrestlers of all time. Like he's not there, but he's like a top 10, in terms of heavyweights. So like probably a top 5. But like, I mean, he isn't as good as like Alexander Karelin. But anyways, or Karelin as we say. But or not we as they say. Fuck, I don't have anything to do with Russia. But like it was good because there was a purpose, right? Chad Gable, I predicted this as soon as I saw Gable Steveson. I'm like, all right, Gable Steveson, Chad Gable, they're both Olympians. I mean, they're gonna have a program. Gable Steveson, he was introduced for no reason. So obviously he made an impact. He did a few belly-to-bellies. Nothing impressive, but the point is, like, I now have a reason to watch Raw, right? I might want to see what this Gable Steveson is all about. A program was started. I'm not saying he's going to feud and it's going to be an important feud against Chad Gable, but the facts are what the facts are. I have a reason to tune in tomorrow. You know what I mean? And that reason is called Gable Steveson. Again, I'm not saying that he's like the superstar or anything like that, but it's a reason. Like the match, the part of the card, the first part of the card did something. It advanced a plot. First, we saw Randy Orton, which is like a must-have at WrestleMania, and then the story was furthered, right? Or in this case, the story was begun. Gable Steveson was introduced to the crowd. That's important. Next up, we had Lashley versus Omos in what was obviously a filler match. The right man went over. Lashley wins. Obviously, Lashley should beat Omos. Let's be real. Omos, he's on the way to having like a Great Khali career, which actually Great Khali's a Hall of Famer, so I don't know if that's an insult or a compliment, but he's not going to be this like big deal or anything. Like kind of like when Great Khali was jobbing to Cody Rhodes, he's going to end up like that. Next up, we had Johnny Knoxville versus Sami Zayn. Obviously, this match was stupid, but that's what you would expect, right? You would expect some jackass hijinks, and that's what we got. So with that being said, I liked it for what it was, you know? It went on too long, obviously. Johnny Knoxville, like, it was kind of dumb, but, you know, it was what it was. It's what you'd expect, you know? In my opinion, it shouldn't be in WrestleMania, but it was better than, like, half the shit that we saw yesterday, you know what I mean? I'd rather watch this than Bianca Belair have another meaningless WrestleMania moment. So, next up, we had Sasha Banks. In this match, to be honest, I completely skipped it. I didn't give a damn. I had to do some work before the show started, so I had, like, another hour to fast forward. I skipped this match. I saw the end, and Sasha Banks and Naomi won. It is completely meaningless. I don't care. Nobody cares. Sasha Banks doesn't care. Nobody cares about this. Next up, we had Edge versus AJ Styles in what was probably the match of the night, you know? And in my opinion, the best match of both days. Now, people are going to think, oh, Cody Rhodes, that was a better match. Bianca Belair had a better match. Those were good matches in terms of, like, in-ring work. But again, it's not about that. And while this match didn't have a storyline going into it, it started a storyline. Edge and Damian Priest, Edge's new dark character, deserves praise. Edge has no need to reinvent himself, but he's doing it because he's Edge. And for some reason, because he's a good wrestler, not for some reason, it fits. It fits. The character fits him. You know? And Damian Priest is the perfect sidekick for this. Because Damian Priest, for some reason, I don't understand what happened with this guy when they were coming up with this character. Because when he was introduced in NXT, he had, like, his fucking name is Damian Priest. Like, obviously he's supposed to be this, like, occult type character. But instead they made him this, like, playboy who likes to party. It was so stupid, you know? So now he's finally getting, like, a gimmick that's, like, relevant according to his name, you know? So I really enjoyed that. The fact that, like, he didn't really interfere. Edge won. I would have had AJ Styles win. But the point here was that Damian Priest and Edge are starting a program. They're starting a group or something. Who knows what's going to happen? I'm not saying it's going to be the best thing ever. But the facts are what the facts are. Something was furthered with this match. And that's why that, plus the fact that it was a good match, puts it, in my opinion, ahead of the Cody Rhodes, Seth Rollins match. Now, I know for some people, it's like Cody Rhodes' return is a big deal because, oh, Dusty would be proud. Whatever, it is what it is. But, like, I personally cannot get past the fact that he betrayed AEW. So, there you have it. Next up, we have Sheamus and Ridge Holland, who squashed the New Day. Basically, 2 bro kicks and a Northern Grit later. Sheamus and Ridge Holland win. I really enjoy Sheamus, Ridge Holland, and Butch. You know, now here it comes. You know, for some reason, like wrestling fans, honestly, for the most part, wrestling fans are just not smart. It's really that simple. Like when Walter changed his name to Gunther or Gunther, as we say in Germany, right? Like people were like, "Oh, WWE, there they go again. Why fix it if it ain't broke?" Did you ever consider that it is broke? Did you ever consider that the name Walter has no marketability whatsoever? He doesn't sound menacing. Walter is like just a name. You know, I get it. The neckbeards that have been following him since his days in Evolve or whatever Austria Pro Wrestling, they care about the name Walter. However, guess what, motherfucks? No one else does. You know, if this guy wants to have a future, you need to be rebranded as someone relevant. You know, Gunther, sounds like a much more badass name than Walter. And people act like the fact that his name was changed to Walter is like this death knell. They act like it's like, oh, that's the end of his career. Why? Why is it a big deal? You know? And same thing with Butch. People are like, oh, WWE, once again, why fix it if it ain't broke? Because it is broke. Pete Dunne sucks. Butch is already better than Pete Dunne. Like, Pete Dunne, he's been there for like 5 years. He's shown zero character in 5 years. The only time Pete Dunne showed any character was when he was teaming with Matt Riddle. And they had this, like, odd couple pairing, right? Which they took and they did it with RK Bro, with a better wrestler than Pete Dunne called Randy Orton. So Pete Dunne needs a gimmick. He needs something to make him stand out. He's like 5'4" and 150 pounds, you know? And it fits perfectly. Like, the stable of Ridge Holland and Sheamus is awesome. First of all, both of them are big motherfucks, right? That's part of the dichotomy. And despite the fact that the big strong guys are the ones that are doing the match, the people should be worried more about Butch because he's fucking insane and he wants to attack everybody. So it's an interesting dynamic. It's almost like DX and China, right? It's like, oh, why is their bodyguard a girl? Like, that's the whole point, you know what I'm saying? It's supposed to be like tongue-in-cheek and like they have a girl to protect her, they can hide behind her, and, you know, and she's also badass. So it's kind of like that. It's like it's different than another 3-man group. Like if you compare, for example, Butch, Ridge Holland, and Sheamus to New Day, they're obviously better. It's an obviously better group. They have like a purpose, you know? And New Day is one of the good ones. If you compare them to, let's say, Legado del Fantasma, like that group is like going nowhere. You know, it's a complete waste of everyone's time. You're just paying these guys to do nothing, you know? So I really enjoy Butch. Butch has entertained me more in like 2 episodes of SmackDown and one little segment, a 2-minute segment of WrestleMania, than Pete Dunne ever has in NXT or NXT UK. So this idea that WWE fans and wrestling fans in general are like, well, why fix it if it ain't broke? Because it sucks. It is broken. It is broken. Pete Dunne sucks. You know what I'm saying? Pete Dunne's not entertaining. Butch is more entertaining than Pete Dunne. Now, if you're there to watch wrestling purists, I want to see Pete Dunne wrestle like A-Kid and Ligero or whatever in a triple threat, like 30-minute Iron match. If you want to see that, then sure, Pete Dunne's good. He'll grab someone's fingers and pull them apart. Great. You know, that's fantastic. He's like a Daniel Bryan ripoff. You know, but if you want to see entertainment, you need Pete Dunne to play a character. And the character of Butch makes sense. He's like this basically, the way I interpret him is like he's this tough guy with like a Napoleon complex. Like his friends are bigger and stronger than him, so he wants to overcompensate by being like a tough guy, right? And it works because he's fucking crazy. That plus crazy, right? So I really enjoy Butch. I think he's way better than Pete Dunne. Same way that I think that changing the name to Gunther is not like a step backwards. People are still gonna chant Walter. So what? Let them. Eventually they're gonna chant Gunther. Like it always happens like that. I mean, WWE has it all the time. Like people, like, nobody cares that Kevin Owens was Kevin Steen. For a while, people cared, but no, they don't care anymore. Like, now he's Kevin Owens. Like, that's his identity, you know? So, it's the same thing. I don't see anything wrong. The only problem is that Gunther, like, the obvious problem is that, like, he was Walter for, like, 3 years, and then they made him Gunther, which, that's kind of dumb. You know, but, beyond that, like, the fact that they changed his name makes perfect sense. You know? Like, Finn Balor, like, he said it himself. Like, you know, Finn Balor is a better name than Fergal Devitt. Fergal just is a stupid name. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just not a name that people can resonate with. You know, it's weird. It's like goofy. You know, but Finn Balor at least rolls off the tongue. You know, so it's like this idea that people can't change their names is so dumb. You know, it's so short-sighted. You know, like I want to see the same Walter that I saw in Evolve. Then go watch old Evolve tapes. WWE isn't here to like pander to that crowd. They want to take Walter because he's good and they want to make him into a star, hopefully. That's how I interpret name changes. I interpret them as like something big is happening to this person's character. You know, not always. Because like going from Mustafa Ali to just Ali, nobody cares. You know, like he's a jobber and he always will be. So, there it is. I thought the match was great, though. I'm not going to lie. It was like a 2-minute match, and that's all you need. That's all you need. Kofi Kingston gets booted in the face. Xavier gets booted in the face. Rich Holland hits a Northern Grit, which is a badass move. Rich Holland rules. Good. That's all I want to see, motherfuckers. I don't want to see like a 25-minute match. Next up, we had another great segment. We had Pat McAfee beating Austin Theory. Obviously, Pat McAfee is underrated. Pat McAfee rules. And Pat McAfee has star power. That was the storyline of tonight. It's like you compare the mediocre pop that, in my opinion, was a mediocre pop that Cody Rhodes got, and you compare it to the pop that Pat McAfee was getting. You know what I mean? And then don't even compare it to the pop that like Stone Cold or Brock Lesnar got. It's a different story, you know. But Pat McAfee is a star, right? He's a star. You know, even Logan Paul, like the boos that he got were at least legit. Like he got a lot of boos, you know, and he looked great. You know, that's another point of contention that people seem to be having with your boy in this piece. But these people I'm not mad at because, you know, we're allowed to disagree. But like I said that Logan Paul is like more muscular than what's his face? Than The Miz. And it's like, all right, you know, obviously The Miz is like beefier, you know, but I think I think Logan Paul can probably lift more than The Miz. And if he can't, he's definitely more athletic, you know what I mean? Like he'd beat the shit out of The Miz. It's like not even a question. Like Logan Paul would beat up all three of the guys in the match like in 10 seconds if he wanted to. So there you have it. Next up, we had an impromptu match. This was fucking awesome. It was McMahon versus Pat McAfee. I mean, it was goofy. McMahon took off his shirt, which I thought was like the highlight. And Michael Cole kept saying he looks jacked. He looks fucking great for like a 72, whatever the fuck he is, like 72, 75. He looks great for his age. But like, it's kind of a shame because, you know, I remember like the old Mr. McMahon when he was like 50, when he was just jacked, you know, like he made Stone Cold look like a cruiserweight. Mr. McMahon won. This was dumb. And then Stone Cold came out and stunned everybody, including Pat McAfee. This was just a great segment. It was a nice, fun segment. Michael Cole, while Pat McAfee was getting destroyed by Mr. McMahon, Michael Cole was like, this is the most despicable thing I've seen. And then when Stone Cold gives Pat McAfee the stunner, Michael Cole's like happy for some reason. It was really weird. Michael Cole needs to like really like get better at his job sometimes. Next up, we had Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. This match, like, here's the thing about this match. It had the big fight feel. It felt like a match. It felt like a WrestleMania main event, and it made WrestleMania feel like WrestleMania. However, the match itself was exactly what you'd expect. It was like a finisher fest. It was just like Drew McIntyre versus Brock Lesnar, except instead of the spear, we had the Claymore. That's the only difference. You know what I mean? Like, every match of these assholes, like, everyone that has like a running finisher like their matches are always the same with Brock Lesnar. And I understand that's like just what Brock Lesnar does. But it's WrestleMania. You know, it shouldn't happen like that. But it was good. There was a few false finishes. I didn't fall for any of them. I was able to quickly predict which spear was going to put Lesnar down. It was very obvious to me. But it is what it is. You know, like, in my opinion, obviously it fell short of like the great main event that we could have gotten. But, again, the important thing to remember here is not who won or who lost or the match itself. It's the setup. Tomorrow now, if Brock Lesnar won, I wouldn't watch Raw. But because Roman Reigns won, I'm inherently curious to see who's going to step up and challenge him. You know? Because it's a new season. Debuts could happen. Maybe it's Cookie Rhodes. Who knows? But the point is, motherfucks, the point is something needs to happen to put forward the idea of Roman Reigns. And Roman Reigns now can go on Raw and say, who's left? Right? Like, it's my yard now. Acknowledge me, basically. Right? The philosophy being that he beat everyone on SmackDown. And he just beat the champion of Raw. You know what I mean? He beat the guy who beat the guy who beat the guy who beat the guy. You know, he beat Brock Lesnar, who just went through everybody at the Chamber, right? So it's like, who's going to challenge me? You know what I mean? Who's it going to be? Rey Mysterio? Like, who? AJ Styles? Who? Edge? You know? Who's it going to be? It doesn't matter. The point is that I want to know who it's going to be. I want to know what's going to happen. I want to know what the promo is going to be like. So in that sense, the main event did its job, right? It's the same thing. Typically, when a good guy wins, like when Daniel Bryan won the WWE title at WrestleMania 30, like, I didn't really care. I don't care about Daniel Bryan. But I will say this. While watching it, I'm like, I wonder who's going to wrestle, tomorrow. The difference is that, like, Daniel Bryan, he can wrestle anybody because he's like a small jobber. He wrestled Kane. Who cares? But Roman Reigns has been booked like stronger than anybody ever. So the question of who's Reigns going to wrestle is a relevant one. So that's why I'm probably going to watch Raw. But if WrestleMania was just night one, I wouldn't watch Raw. I'm like, I don't care. I'll just read what Cody Rhodes did. He's going to go feud with some mid-carder. He's not going to get pushed to the main event. And if he does, that's just stupid. Like the guy that was feuding with like Big Shotty Lee Johnson or Lee Moriarty or Sammy Guevara, this guy's going to go wrestle Roman Reigns who just beat Brock Lesnar? Have you lost your mind? Like, they're not even in the same category of wrestler. It's like Roman Reigns is like a legit main eventer. Cody Rhodes is a jobber who, like, before he beat Seth Rollins, he was Stardust. And before that, he was in a pissant little company pretending he was a big-time wrestler. Cutting promos about, how interracial marriage is an American concept, even though the guy he was cutting it on is like the product of an interracial marriage. But it is what it is. Doesn't matter. Point is, I'm going to watch Raw, and I suggest everyone does. Maybe we'll even do a Raw review. And if you haven't, subscribe today, motherfuckers. I ain't got time to tell you that every video up in this piece.